this is when I have to remind everybody that if you're planning to do the tasting, be sure to boil your water.
Yep.
And have it nearby, I gather? Have the water, hot water, a glass with hot water nearby?
Yes, please.
Oh.
I've got an electric pot like this right next to me. So that's what I'm working with.
Nice.
Hi, Shoshana. I just spent the last 15 minutes looking for my electric tea kettle, which I absolutely love, and hoping against hope that I hadn't packed it. And then I discovered that I did pack it.
Oh, no.
But I found a regular old teapot in my house. So now I'm waiting for that whistle to go down.
Oh, okay.
I never use those, so I have to.
A kettle is fine, and also just a pot with some water in it. You know,
Right,
on
that
a
would
flame
probably work
works
well
fine,
too.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
it does.
I just put my tea bag in water and stick it in the microwave for 3 minutes.
Okay, whatever works.
Is that a bad thing? No, okay.
No,
Okay.
I don't think
We're
so.
gonna have to send you back to the waiting room, Donna. That's
It's
That is a violation of the tea drinkers code.
We're doing non-judgmental tea tasting tonight.
Thank
Good.
goodness.
Caroline Keogh does not bring attitude to the
No.
tea tasting.
I'm gonna try not to.
Try.
I can tell that already because I've looked at some online sites about tea and they're like, and the water must be exactly 180 degrees, no warmer and no cooler.
Yeah.
But you haven't, you didn't say that. So I'm like, okay, I can
Well,
do it.
if you want to get compulsive in our kit, there is, if you want to
Right.
start getting out your thermometer, because, you know, black tea has a higher preferred temperature. So if you want to get, into the weeds with Caroline, she's got the info here.
Yes, please do. Now, I like any kind of tea brewed anyway. But a lot of my customers do really like precision, and a lot of people cook like that, like they cook by the recipe. And then I'm one of those people, if I was a cook, I'm sure I would just throw everything together. I make food, but I'm just not real geared towards precision when it comes to food. But I do know all the rules, and they're right here.
Now, we're sort of starting, but I suppose we
Yeah.
should do an official introduction. And
Okay.
There's my
Sam
tea kettle, so I'll be right back.
Are we mostly all here?
I think so.
Okay.
Sam will be kind enough to let in latecomers who are still boiling their water or whatever.
Okay.
So it's my pleasure, everyone, to introduce our Westville neighbor, Caroline Keogh, who is owner and certified tea specialist at Westville's New Haven Tea. Perhaps you've seen her teas at the Edgewood Farmers Market or the Worcester Square Farmers Market. I should note for all of you coffee drinkers that she also sells coffee and all kinds of coffees. But tonight we're talking tea. And because it's 8 p.m., we're tasting non-caffeinated teas.
Thank you.
Caroline received her certification in 2006 and started blending teas as a hobby. Since 2018, she has been operating a cottage food business from the basement of her house here on Alden Avenue. If you spent some time at her website to order the Becky Tea Kit, you would see that she offers a huge variety of teas, black teas and green teas and matcha teas and herbal tea blends. Tonight, she'll talk about tea and guide us through the tasting of 4 of her tea blends. She'll pause at any point for questions. So we'll ask people to mute themselves for now, except for Caroline, and then just put a note in chat, and Sam will keep an eye on the chat and interrupt at logical points for questions. So you can just let Sam Purdy know that you've got a question, and he'll invite you to unmute to ask. So Caroline, where should we start? Should we start with some basic information about tea before we start brewing? What do you think?
Well, I would like to actually start with the brewing because we're going to need a few minutes for the teas to steep. And we'll start by steeping 2 teas. We've got 4. We're going to start with the decaf lavender Earl Grey, which is a decaffeinated black tea. And then the second tea we'll taste will be the lemon souffle. Now, what you do to brew it with the kit is you put a teaspoon of tea into the scoop that came in the kit. And so it's maybe not quite this whole spoon, but about 3/4 of it. And in your kit, you will also have these tea bags, disposable tea bags. So you can put the tea right in there. It goes into your cup. And then you can pour the hot water on.
Okay, Caroline, I'm already lost. Which one first?
The first one is the decaf lavender Earl Grey.
Thank you.
The second one we will taste tonight, which we can prepare now and have that steeping, is the lemon souffle, and this is a rooibos-based tea. Now we each have a 5-minute timer, and I'm going to flip this over and start it, and you are welcome to also, because we don't want to go over the 5 minutes on any of the teas because they may become bitter. So since we will be starting with the decaf lavender Earl Grey, I would like to tell you a few things about the tea leaf. Now, black teas and green teas, oolongs, pu'ers, and matchas all derive from the Camellia sinensis plant. Now, the Camellia sinensis plant is processed in different ways. The black tea is oxidized, which means air is blown onto it during the drying process. And what makes the green tea different is that the green teas are not oxidized at all. They are withered and dried quickly without any forced air through them. And now black teas come in quite a few different varieties, and they also come from different places in the world. There is black tea grown, or any kind of the Camellia sinensis plant grown in the United States, only in Hawaii. And also, I think the Bigelow Tea Company owns a tea plantation in one of the Carolinas. I'm not sure which Carolina it is, but they have, that's their tea garden. And that's not where, when you buy their tea off the shelf, that's not where it comes from. But they can afford to keep it as just as a tea estate for their private reserves. Now, black tea, you'll see it in different styles that it's processed. It can be made into a pearl, and a black pearl tea is the leaves are plucked off of the tea bush, and they're placed between 2 reeded mats and rolled like this. And so you will see pearl teas that look like this. They're little round pearls. And so when you put those in water, they unfurl very beautifully. And the different processing of the tea imparts a different flavorings. And the flavorings are very subtle. But I find any of the tea leaves that are processed tightly or compressed develop kind of an earthy flavor. They tend towards an earthy flavor, and also towards a kind of a musky, fermented, smoky kind of flavoring. The tea we're tasting tonight is a basic black tea, and it's this is a Chinese black tea. It's a good quality. It's blended with lavender buds, And the lavender buds are grown in Connecticut, as well as it has blue cornflowers that are also local. And what makes it an Earl Grey tea is the bergamot fruit. Now, the bergamot fruit is a small citrus fruit, only about this big, and it's grown in different places in Asia. And that's what, if you get the Earl Grey teas or Earl Grey soaps, or I don't produce it, but I've even seen Earl Grey coffees and lotions, all different kinds of things. That's the bergamot fruit that imparts that flavoring. It's really the most popular flavoring of tea is Earl Grey. So it looks like our timer is probably about 3 minutes in. And so if we look at the black tea right now, it has a lovely sort of gold kind of red color. It looks red on the screen, but to me it looks very gold, a golden brown, and it's nice. Now I like my black tea at about the 3 to 4 minute mark. So I'm going to take mine out, and you're welcome to let it steep a little longer. If you think you might want to be putting milk in it at some point, or sugar, you might want it a little bit stronger. Or if you're unsure, you can go ahead and take it out now. And then the rooibos, the lemon souffle rooibos tea, we'll leave that a little longer. Now the rooibos tea leaf is not a Camellia sinensis plant at all. This is an herb that's grown primarily in South Africa. And the rooibos leaf is very popular because it's easy to blend it with different flavorings and have the flavor stay in there and blend together very well. And it's got kind of a medium body, like a regular tea would have, as opposed to, an herbal, which we'll try later. But we want to leave the rooibos for the full 5 minutes. Now, the black tea that we will be tasting is decaffeinated, and there's several different ways that I see a question coming in. So somebody asked a question, I believe, about the Earl Grey as opposed to the Lady Grey. Well, the Lady Grey is a derivative of an Earl Grey. It's just the way it's dressed. Now, if you go to one tea company or one tea shop, they may even consider this lavender, or the addition of lavender flowers and maybe some lemon. They might call that a Lady Earl Grey. They have different names for it. But typically an Earl Grey does always have that bergamot fruit. And I suppose it's not widely available because I don't produce it, because nobody's asked me to. And I also like to name my teas now by what they are and not give them like a proper name, so to speak, because it's hard for people to understand what they are. So now I just, mostly when I make new teas, I call them with the primary ingredient as what's inside there. That's how I title the teas. But I also have the lavender Earl Grey in addition to the decaf, the black, the regular black tea. I have green tea and lots of rooibos Earl Greys and herbal Earl Greys. Everybody loves Earl Grey tea in all different ways, including with different kinds of flowers, roses, spices. Russian Earl Grey will have lemongrass in it. So it's all different ways to produce it, to blend it. Now we do have these charts here, and you're welcome, if you want to write the name of the tea and then make yourself notes about it. And we also have a basic tasting wheel. And you can tell I just stole this off the internet and something that wasn't copyrighted. But since we're going to be tasting the black tea, the decaffeinated black tea, the black teas typically start with the woody and the mineral tasting. So feel free to have a sip if it's cool enough for you, and let me know what you think. Well, let's see. How long do teas last, and can you reuse your tea bag? Well, when I got my licensing by the Consumer Protection Department by the state of Connecticut, they told me that they issue about a 10-year expiration date on teas and spices. However, I really think that it's the industry standard, and it's what I do too. Once something is blended and then we package it the same day we blend it, I put a 4-year expiration date on it. So, however, once it's been opened, I would drink it within 2 years. But if it hasn't been opened, the expiration date that's on the label is perfectly fine. Also, you need to think of teas that are still dry in your cupboard, just like spices. You don't toss out your whole collection of spices every year and buy new ones. And sometimes even when they get close to the expiration date, they're really fine, as long as they have not absorbed any moisture. Did I answer that question? I think I did. Oh, can you reuse the tea bag? You certainly can. That's fine. A lot of people do it on a lot of teas. Can everybody taste the bergamot fruit? And do you recognize the Earl Grey? Okay, so the 5 minutes is about up, or it's done. So let's uninfuse the rooibos. So the rooibos has a little bit of sort of a nutty background, I find. That's the only way I can describe it. But if you taste it, it may, it's kind of hard to differentiate between the rooibos and just a light general black tea. And this one is blended with lemons. And I believe the lemons were grown in Florida. What else did I put in here? We've got the rooibos leaf, also the lemongrass and the calendula flower petals, and then the essential oil of the lemons. The calendula flowers are also locally grown. So I try to produce the teas with as many locally grown ingredients as I can find. And since I'm out vending at the farmers markets, I can pick them up. And I've gotten to know quite a few of the farmers that produce the flowers, spices, and some of the fruits that I buy from them. And that gives me a lot of security and a lot of confidence too, when I present it to my customers, or sell it to my customers, that I know, where it came from and that it's good quality product.
There was a question about the best cup to drink from.
Whatever makes you happy. I don't think there's any particular cup that makes the tea taste better, as long as it's clean. It can be out of any material. I like to use these for the tasting because I can see it and I enjoy like looking at the different colors of the tea. I like fancy teacups too. We do a lot of this kind of thing. This is always fun. Sometimes this makes the tea taste really even more special. You have a fancy teacup and saucer. That's fun. Mugs are fine. Earthenware is pretty good. Metal teacups. Metal teacups that kind of are made out of this kind of like a cast iron metal are really popular. I don't have the cup handy, but I have the pot here. What's everybody's favorite kind of cup to drink their tea out of?
I have a whole set collection of teacups that my mother used to get from the antique store. And now I know, but they're sitting in a break front, you know, in the dining room.
Mhm.
So it's inconvenient, but I think what I should do with these teas, I think it makes it look prettier.
Yes, it does. It can add a special note to your tea drinking experience, even if it only spend 10 minutes of it. But I think if you took one or two cups and saucers out of the display cabinet and just put them in your regular cabinet, you might be more apt to use them.
My favorite cup is depends on my mood.
Oh, okay.
So I love the clear.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
And for this special occasion, I found this antique kind of cup that I don't know where I got it from, but I like it.
Oh, pretty. Now that is such fine bone china that I can see right through it. Is it china or is it metal? Because I can
Metal.
see. Okay, yes.
It is something from Europe. I can't read it.
That's very beautiful. It's so thin you can just see the light right through it.
Modern Geschichte. Taschek. So modern company. And oh, this is Czech. I think that means it's from Czechoslovakia.
Oh, yeah. From the Czech Republic, or maybe it was produced during when it was Czechoslovakia, or one of the other country names that it's carried. Does anybody have any questions about the rooibos? I think we can start working on making our next teas. The next one we're going to make is the licorice mint tea. And this has licorice, peppermint, spearmint, and spearmint. The mints are grown in Connecticut.
Caroline, there was a question or two here, just
Okay,
about
please
the
ask them.
rooibos. Rachel just asking just more about what rooibos is. Is it medicinal?
I'm not a trained herbalist. I'm a tea specialist. So most of my herbal knowledge is just very general. And honestly, I've learned most of it from my customers because they'll ask me about certain ingredients that they're looking for. And that's why now I have so many teas. However, I do know that the rooibos leaf is high in iron, and it also has quite a bit of potassium and calcium. So it certainly is helpful for your health.
Mhm.
Now, we all know that we're using these filters, but there's also all different kinds of tea infusers that you can use if you're more comfortable, if you have them handy. The filters are great for when you're just on the run and you want to toss your tea bag. I'm still making my licorice mint here.
So I had a question,
Certainly.
although you inspired me to pull out all the teacups and saucers I inherited from my mother, who used to collect them and use them with glass dishes to play when she played mahjong. But and they had their coffee and I haven't had them out in 15 years, so I'm just pulling them out. But anyway, my question was back to expired teas.
Okay.
And does that just mean they're a little dull tasting, or does that mean
Yeah,
they've
they won't-
absorbed?
They won't be
Or-
as vibrant. Now, if they're still sealed, they will taste the same as the day they were put in there. Basically, that's what I found. In fact, I have a couple of specialties in my cupboard that they aren't my favorite tasting, but they're just very unusual, and I will have them from time to time. Some of them are about 15 years old, but I refuse to give them up because when I do want that tea, it's there. And maybe I got it in a special place, and so
they don't absorb like bad.
they do. If the lid is left off of it, or the lid comes loose, or once it's been opened, I really think once the tea container's been opened, unsealed, the tea needs to be finished within 2 years.
or what? I just wondered if you.
Oh, moisture gets in there, and then like mildew can happen even in a small way. It will impart different flavors that emit from your kitchen if they're stored in your kitchen or your cupboard.
Yeah, no.
Especially if you have them in your spice cupboard, you might have some Earl Grey, and next thing you know, it's been there 5 years, opened, and then it's sitting next to the cinnamon, and now it tastes like cinnamon.
Yeah, no, the one I'm drinking tastes awful, and I just wondered if
Have you had it a while? Have you had it a while?
No doubt. As long as the teacups, probably.
Carolyn,
Hello.
hi. I just opened a package that was very tightly sealed of green tea from Rwanda that had won a prize that a friend of mine who goes to Rwanda had brought back. And I've had it in my house for 3 or 4 years, but it was very tightly sealed and it is delicious.
Oh, yes, I imagine so. I love teas and coffees from Rwanda. I carry a few myself. Nothing green. I've actually never tried a green Rwandan tea, but that's nice to know. Yes, and I think if you drink it up in the next couple of years,
Well, I'll drink it up faster than that because it's just too good. I've been brewing it like every 3 days and then icing it, and it is so yummy.
Wonderful.
But it was sealed very well.
Okay. And some places where you purchase tea, they don't have like expiration date requirements, so you may not know how long.
Well, I know when it was given to me.
Yeah, and so that's fine.
It was a couple of years ago.
So your peppermint teas should all be starting to look kind of like this.
Peppermint.
And then this is the peppermint tea is finishing up. So why don't we all go ahead and start infusing our last tea, which is the licorice tea.
I did find my cup.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Pretty?
Yes, I love anything with gold and
I'm so happy.
they're all hand painted and they're all made by hand, which is amazing.
This one, the inside is a fruit bowl.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's great.
The inside is very complicated pattern.
Ainsley.
Ainsley. Boy, they make some nice products. Ainsley Company. English tea ware, English fine china is really beautiful.
That's your drinking cup.
No, it's not.
Which is your drinking cup?
You may find that the tea in these tubes, you have to kind of hit against the table or something to loosen them up enough to get them to come in. They get packed down just from sitting.
There was one other question from Diane. Do all teas have tannic acid? She said she was told that tannic acid is not good for you, which is a reason to not reuse tea bags.
Oh, that, you know what? The tannic acid in the tea bag or in the tea? I think it would be in the tea. Now, I find that as far as any kind of acid goes, the black teas have a lot less of it than the green teas. The green teas are highly acidic, as well as the herbals. The mints are more acidic, even though many people drink mint tea for digestion, but for a lot of people, it can cause problems because of the acid that's in it. Okay, so we should be at enough time for the peppermint. We can discard our tea bags for the peppermint. And then we can leave our the turmeric tea, the spice tea, for a few more minutes.
Yeah, this is the turmeric one.
Now the disposable tea bags, these white ones are a man-made material, And it did come out like within the last couple of years that it's not good to use these all the time because they do impart some type of chemical into your system. And I do also sell, a lot of tea companies sell biodegradable ones, which don't have any chemicals in it. They're made from wood, just like paper, and they're not treated with any chemicals. So those are better. And just for every day, I think an infuser like this or a teapot with an infuser in it is good too, like this kind of thing. If you're on the go, you really cannot beat the tea bags that you toss.
I have this this little brew pot.
Oh, those are fun.
Yeah, where we just, and then you put it on top of your cup and it lifts the strain up. Oh, I just got it all over myself. Yeah. And we find that my husband puts tea there in the morning and we can drink cups of tea out of it all day. You pour the hot water in and this has really been a nice thing. Ooh.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's like the old-fashioned Russian samovars.
Oh, is that
what they did is it had a filter on the top and they would make the tea, and then during the day or as they wanted more, they would pour it out and then just put hot water on it.
Okay.
Okay, so any more questions?
What is real?
What is there's kind of a couple questions that I'll combine. One is best teas for iced tea, but then also my wife's in the other room and she's asking, are there certain teas that are good with milk? Like you shouldn't put milk in a type of tea, or that are better for tea with milk? So iced teas and milk in teas, yes or no?
Okay, milk in teas is easier for me to answer, so I'll answer that one. I think the black teas hold up very well to milk. Now, the high acid content in a green tea or an herbal tea really are not very conducive to milk as far as the flavors that we like, that are generally accepted. But most black teas do really well with milk, and that's why when you go to England specifically and other parts of the European areas, they use a lot of milk with their teas.
Yeah. I like that.
And the second question, refresh my memory again, about
iced tea.
Oh, the iced tea, yes. So iced teas, I think any tea can be made with iced tea. You just have to brew it a bit stronger. Now, if you were to put this, like the teacup we just made with the 1 teaspoon approximately full of tea, and you put a little bit of ice in it, I think it would be fine. If you want to make a big cup of ice, like you would definitely usually you would use a larger glass for ice, you would double up the tea. If you're going to make a big pitcher, use 3 or 4 teaspoons of tea. And my customers do all different kinds of iced teas. A lot of them, will make a pot of tea in the morning and they'll drink it, especially if they're drinking something with caffeine, they'll drink it, straight hot in the morning. And then later in the day, they'll just dump it on ice. That's what they tell me. Or they'll make pitchers of teas. A lot of people like the herbals with the, like the hibiscus leaf in there because it turns a beautiful red. And I'm a fan of any tea being iced.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So we're working on the peppermints, and the peppermints are grown, in Connecticut, and it's wild all over the place. A lot of people have it in their garden. Really, it takes off in most regions of the world, peppermints. A tea that a lot of people ask me about is the blue tea. It's commercially available now and very popular. And this is a pea flower, and this doesn't grow. This doesn't grow in Connecticut. It's grown in Southeast Asia. They drink a lot of it in Thailand, in the Philippines. I was going to brew some up for you all just so you could see it. So peppermints are used a lot for digestives. People will drink a cup of peppermint tea after they've had maybe a full meal. Sometimes if you have certain kinds of regular digestion issues, though, I don't really recommend peppermint because it could be actually inflammatory on some levels. But if it's just because you overate, peppermint's good. Peppermint also works really well with a lot of different flavors. So many things are peppermint and spearmint. Like we all have our spearmint toothpaste every day. Yes, peppermint can aggravate heartburn and reflux. That's correct.
She's a doctor. No, she's a nurse midwife. She's medically trained.
I want to show off my new teapot. I was inspired by tonight. It just came in the mail yesterday.
Oh,
So
fun.
and it's got this, because I've started thinking about, with all the herbal tea bags that I consume, about my waste trail. Because I'm, I empty out the tea bag content, the herbal tea, into compost, but then I got the bag and the string and the box and the plastic wrap on the box. So I'm seeing that I will create less trash if I just buy the tea.
Tap this upside down onto your compost bin and you're done. Yeah, it's so easy. And the tea bags, the disposable tea bags, are nice for convenience, but they aren't the best thing, for the ecology of the world. That's for sure. Okay, so we're drinking the peppermint tea. Feel free to ask any additional questions about the peppermint. But here is the blue tea that I brewed. And so you'll see this kind of popular in different places. If you get a chance to drink it, it tastes pretty good. I blend my blue tea, and it's a blue pea flower. I blend it with lemongrass because that's a traditional way that they drink it in Thailand. And I just think it really makes a nice flavor. I don't think the flowers are too flavorful by themselves. They do look pretty. So.
Now, this is the last one.
It's mild.
Now, I told everybody about the pearl teas for the Camellia sinensis, but a tea that I get asked about a lot is the Lapsang Souchong. People are always curious about it, and the Lapsang has a lot of fans, including this guy, Andy Warhol. He was famous for having a tea party every day in his house, in the studio. At 3 p.m., he brewed up a pot of Lapsang Souchong tea. And what that is that's typically a black tea, and yes, I do have the pearl teas. It's typically a black tea, and it is withered with or oxidized with smoke. And pine needles are popular use, cedar, just different kinds of smoke. And it gives the teas different flavors, but it smells really smoky. It's kind of a masculine smell. People that like campfires are drawn to that kind of tea. And it's really something. It's quite fun. I sell a fair amount of that. Darjeeling is another Camellia sinensis tea that is quite unusual as far as the different flushes. It's grown in Darjeeling, India, and what makes it special on the flushes is that it can only be plucked one time per year. So the first plucking of the year, the tea will be quite immature, not as immature as a white tea would be, but quite immature. And like I said, it can only be plucked once, and that's why the prices are quite high. And also then there's the second flush, and it also is not quite as dear as the first flush. I find the taste mostly very similar if they're from the same garden. Different tea gardens, though, I think will have different flavors. And then when you get to the third plucking of any tea garden, that's just the regular tea that comes after that. Sencha teas, still on the Camellia sinensis. Sencha teas are grown in both Japan and China. And the one that I offer in the green sencha, just plain by itself, is grown in Japan. And then the teas that I use, the green sencha teas I use for blending, are typically a Chinese tea. There's some sencha grown in Africa, but I haven't started working with it. And it's a really good, really nice kind of grassy flavor. And then the matcha teas are the tea leaves that have been dried and then ground. People drink these, they're really highly caffeinated because if you drink it, you're consuming the entire plant, the entire leaf. Whereas typical teas, we just infuse it for a few minutes and then toss it. People like the matcha teas for blending into their smoothies right now. That's popular. Okay, the licorice is very subtle. Thank you. Thank you. And it deepens the flavor of the mint. I think so too. I like it. I get a lot of compliments on it. Thank you. So what's special about this turmeric tea is that the turmeric is grown in Connecticut, as well as the mint that's in here. But the turmeric is very well known for its anti-inflammatory properties. And so people will oftentimes test out the turmeric with a cup of tea, or they'll buy a pouch of tea and they'll drink it. And then if they find that it really works well and they need to be drinking, like instead of trying to drink 2 or 3 pots a day, they may go to the pills. But for people that have occasional or maybe it's just morning stiffness, a cup of tea is fine for that. Now, we didn't get to taste, oh, let's see, thank you. We didn't get to taste any of the green teas because I didn't have anything in a decaf green that was in a small container. This is the smallest container I go because the cost of labor is the same for this as it is for this. But the green teas do have a grassy, I think a grassy taste on the color wheel, as well as the herbals like the mints, I think will kind of lend itself in that direction. And if you look on the color wheel on the herbals, you have the mint. And then I don't really taste the sage myself as a grassy, or the lavender. As an herbal, I taste the lavender more as a floral. Now, when we were tasting the lavender on the lavender, the decaf lavender Earl Grey, did anybody taste it either herbal or a floral? I taste it as a floral. Anybody have a different experience? No? So what's everybody's favorite?
So should we let people unmute so they can just talk?
I really liked the Earl Grey. I just think that bergamot flavor is just wonderful in it. And I think I love that sort of like the play between the citrusiness and then the kind of like somewhat, it's not bitter, but that sort of other tea flavor just work together so well.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's why the Earl Greys are the most popular tea flavors in the world. Yeah.
I like the turmeric, turmeric tamer tea. It had a very lovely.
Oh, thank you. It's quite unique. the first time I tasted turmeric tea, I think I was just in a coffee shop in New York, and they were specialized in coffee, but they had a few teas, and I tried it, and I thought, oh, this is really odd, but the taste grew quite fast.
Yeah.
I love the licorice.
Oh, do you like licorice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So smooth and sweet.
Thank you.
Well, I really like the lemon souffle tea. I loved the taste of the red rubus. How do
Oh, did
pronounce it?
you? Yeah, the rooibos is the typical.
Rooibos, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
I was
I emptied that.
just
Is there
loved
anything?
it. Yeah. And the Earl Grey was great too. I really like Earl Grey. And it's I've never tasted it quite like that. So that would be nice in the morning. Mm. And this would, and the lemon souffle be nice at night.
Yeah.
Tea for every hour.
Will you be at the farmer's market in Edgewood Park in the upcoming weeks, or what?
Well, we try to go once or twice a month, and we were just at Edgewood at the opening this past Sunday. So it would be the Sunday after next.
Okay.
We'll be back, and you'll see my my saleswoman Alicia. She most likely will attend that one because I usually do Worcester Square on Saturday.
Okay.
I collect teapots. I
Oh,
didn't know if
fun.
anyone would be interested to see. This one was a gift from Japan. And it's bunnies. Actually, I'm sorry, it's China. Is this? I don't remember. I think it's China. Isn't it cute? And it's little.
Adorable.
Yeah.
Is it
and
made of metal or is it earthenware?
It's earthenware.
Ah, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Can you hold it up again? Just I had to show Catherine. Catherine, look at this.
Oh, cool.
Bunnies.
And it came with 6 cups, each with the bunny.
Oh, fun.
Mm-hmm. And then I thought I'd show you, this is like the complete opposite. This is like English China.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Pheasant, I think.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes, it's just
Is
this
that
one
a
of my-
contemporary piece or was that like
Yes.
something from the 1950s?
No, this is contemporary. It's probably 40 years old.
Oh,
that,
okay.
that
Beautiful. It looks brand new.
yes. I try to keep it nice.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you use
My
Oh, you have the American made.
Susan, do you
all
make them and make tea in them, or do you mostly just have them on display?
The bunny one I use all the time. And this one I use when I have company. This is Royal Copenhagen.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Really beautiful. Now, Sarah, you showed, Sarah, I'm sorry, Ms. Levine, you showed us your Aladdin, your Hall Aladdin. Does it still have the original infuser on it?
Me? You're talking,
There?
no, this, yes.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this was my mother used to buy these things at tag sales, so this says, I don't know if it's anything but Hall, made in USA, and it's a
Really,
yeah.
those are
it's
highly
like-
collectible now.
I figured it would be.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I now have my whole dining room table covered with things that I haven't brought out in years or decades.
Oh,
And
fun.
for
Well, I'm glad
new
this prompted
display.
you to get here.
My teacups. Whoops. So what's the ring now?
Where are you? What's going on, Donna?
I have a lot of-
Donna, it looks like you have a Turkish teacup there.
I do. This is it tea or I always thought it might be espresso or something. I don't know.
Oh,
That looks
nice.
like a Turkish teacup.
I like that.
Yeah, I've
You
also
can drink coffee out of it too. Sure.
Unfortunately, my kids don't appreciate all these heirlooms that I have. So I
Good
don't-
company,
and the
Donna.
consignment shops are filled with these kinds of things for anyone who
Uh-huh.
wants to acquire them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have
but-
another tea question. This one's about the decaffeination process.
Oh, okay.
So I always think that it's more healthful to make an herbal tea than to make for myself a decaffeinated black tea, because I wonder if in the process of decaffeination, it became somehow, I don't know, not toxic, but not a good thing for me to ingest.
Now, I'm not a decaffeination expert, but this is what I know. Now, there are several types of decaffeination processes for the tea leaf. One of them is the CO2, and then there's at least one other chemical process that I know of. And how they do the CO2 is they take the gas and they put it in some kind of chamber with the tea leaves, and it's the air and the leaves and the gas is compressed and heated. The molecules from the COT draw up the caffeine molecules, and the taste molecules are too big, so they can't participate in that. And that's how, when they release the CO2, that's how they get the caffeine out of there. There's another process, there's several, but only one that I know of, and they actually soak the tea leaves in chemicals. And so if you're not sure about the process, I just don't deal with or use any decaffeinated teas that I'm not sure is unless it's from a certified like CO2 place that I can get it from, or that it says it right there on the labeling. I wouldn't trust it, but you're right. I think probably about a few percentage of caffeine is left in decaffeinated tea. And that's why many people don't drink it, and why I only shared, the one with us tonight. I think we're probably all still going to be able to sleep with a little bit of caffeine we may have gotten from the decaffeinated black tea, but I hope it's not a problem.
Nice, very nice.
So the best way for us to find your teas is to either go online and order from you directly, or to go to the farmer's market, either in Worcester Square or in Edgewood every other week-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, if you want to just look at the teas
Lovely.
at the farmer's market, we have a tester of every single tea that I carry. We haul them out, 150 teas every time we go out. Yeah, they're all there.
Great.
to look at.
What's your favorite?
I like black spicy teas, and so my favorites that I make are the ginger mango and the German gingerbread.
How about chai? Do you do chai?
I make a lot of chais. I have green chai. I have about 3 different black chais and 2 herbal chais and a rooibos chai.
Wow.
It's very popular. After the Earl Grey, chai is the second most popular tea flavor.
And could you tell the difference between all of those different chais? Are they similar?
Well, they like my basic classic masala chai is just the classic masala, and how I differentiate them is I add different different things in there. Like one of them I have actually with a turmeric root in there, and it really tastes good. People like it. I have some on rooibos because a lot of people want their chai, but they don't want it. They don't want any caffeine. But then I have the decaf chai for the people that don't mind, maybe a little bit of caffeine, possibly. And then there's green chai, and all different kinds. I can't think of the other ones I have right now, but one of the chais has lemongrass in it.
Do you sell chamomile tea?
Yes, I sell teas that are blended with the chamomile, but I don't sell the chamomile by itself because it's so readily available, like everywhere you go, and So I just don't think there's like a market for it at the price that I would have to produce it at. But I do have it in several herbal teas. A popular one is called Beauty Sleep Dream, and it's got the chamomile, roses, and lavender.
Sounds good.
I have a question. It's probably more for the rabbi. Whether all teas are kosher.
Yeah, I mean, like, could I think of a tea that has like a non-kosher ingredient in it? Like, I guess you could like make, come up with one. But generally, yeah, I don't think if you go to a place where you're buying loose leaf tea, you don't have to worry about it. Because there's any sort of assumption, like I think that Caroline would say, like if anybody were going there, you wouldn't have to, it would obviously be a bad thing for a person selling tea if it turned out like, oh, there's a piece of McDonald's hamburger in this tea. Like, that's gross, right? You're not going to want to buy that. So you can assume that like, no, they're of course keeping it separate. So yes, you could buy this. I would buy this tea and put it in my I did put it in my mug.
That's save the hamburgers for the draft.
Right, that's gross, by the way. Like I feel like, but you know what I mean.
Can you
I did
tell us?
literally saw one with yesterday with French fries in it.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about your coffee roasting?
Okay, so I have a coffee roaster, and I have coffees from 8 different origins, and so I have several blends. One of them that's become very popular for, excuse me, just a quick second while I reach up and grab it. Because to attend the farmer's market or to be involved with them, I'm required to use Connecticut grown ingredients. And the only things that I could think of to put into some of the coffees would be the lavender. And this has become my signature coffee. And then the honey, because Sugar Maple Farms, there's a lot of honey producers in Connecticut. And so and it's easy to blend into coffee beans. And the rest of our bags just look like this, and they're single origins. I have them from Africa, South America, one Mexican, which is North America. It's fun. It's fun to make the different coffees too.
And you roast them right there in your basement?
Yes, I do have a coffee roaster here. When I started business, I was on the regular food manufacturer's license because the state of Connecticut did not have a cottage food license. But then when it came when it was enacted, I jumped on it right away. And when they sent me their certificate, for the tea, they put the tea and the coffee together under the same category. So when I got the certificate, I told my husband, I said, oh, now I get to buy a coffee roaster. So we took the washer and dryer out of the basement that used to work down here with me, moved it upstairs, and I put the coffee roaster in there. And then I'm really proud to say too, that I won a COVID grant from the state of Connecticut this year at the beginning of the year. I applied at the end of the year. And so your all tax dollars purchased some K-cup processing machinery for New Haven Tea and Coffee, and also additional packaging machinery.
Are you self-taught, or when did you start learning about all of this, or did you go to school for it? Or
I did take classes for it, and it was some years ago, and I took the classes just because I thought it might be kind of interesting, and I was thinking, oh, maybe it might be something I might want to do, but I didn't do anything about it for many, many years. And then my grown daughter was traveling in Asia on a business trip, and she knew that I was, of course, I'm all about tea. And so she brought me back for Christmas like 20 pounds of different loose leaf teas. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? And so I blended up some teas, and I gave like a bunch of it away, and you can only give away so much. And so I thought, I have all this tea. And so I opened up an Etsy shop, and it went well. So then I applied to the farmer's market. Here I am.
Nice.
5 years later.
That's great. Rachel, are you trying to talk to us? Because you're on mute.
Sorry, after all these months. So Caroline, so you actually make your signature blends into K-Cups?
Yes, uh-huh. I have K-Cups now.
Wow.
Uh-huh, yeah. Thank you all, paying your taxes.
That's great. Well, it's a little after 9. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Well, this was super informative. Thank you so much.
You're very
I have a
welcome.
comment.
Oh, yes, sorry.
All right, if anyone's really interested in tea growing and the industry, there's a wonderful book called, I think it's The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane.
Beautiful book, yeah.
And
Lisa
it's a beautifully written book, and it really has a lot of insight into the tea industry in general and tea growing.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
It's a good book. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate. I feel like I know a lot
welcome.
more about tea and what's going on there in the corner of Alden and Cleveland, which I walk by on a regular basis.
Thank you all very much for participating.
Thank you.
And I just want to mention for everybody, next week, Rob Forbes is going to be talking to us about Juneteenth, which you probably all know is the day of celebration of the end of slavery in the US. It's got a complicated and interesting history, which I'm sure Rob will help us understand. And I hope to see you all there, same place, same Zoom link, etc. And I hope you all have a really good rest of your week and good tea drinking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Caroline.
You're welcome. Good night now.